And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their foreheads. Lord, use me with every breath that I breathe to educate people about the mark of the beast. So many deceived without a clue to what it means. And the prophecies you gave the great prophets in their dreams. Father, open up their eyes, please let them see the majority of the world following the beast. And he causes both small and great all to receive a mark of their authority, the mark of the beast. In Daniel chapter 7, the Father gave him... Hey, I'm Judah Dubose with Kadesh Ministries. And today, I'm going to break down what the real mark of the beast is. The real mark of the beast. I've heard so many things over the year, and I've also have been deceived over the years on what is the mark of the beast. But in this study, I'm going to prove, the Father's going to let me prove 100% using just the Bible and historical facts, that I'm going to actually show you along the way to show you what the mark of the beast is undeniably and how do we avoid it, which is very simple. So let's get into it. You know, I've heard people say that the mark of the beast was a microchip. I've heard people say it was a barcode. I've heard people say it was a tattoo, a 666. I've heard people say so many different things, and I was actually a victim of believing it was the microchip. But then you have to ask yourself, what spiritual significance do a microchip have? Now, don't get me wrong. While a microchip could be used to help enforce the mark of the mark of the beast, doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually the mark of the beast. So let's get into it, and it starts in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. And we're going to start at verse 31. And this is where the Father gives Nebuchadnezzar a dream of a statue, a great statue, and he didn't understand the dream, and Daniel told it to him. So, Daniel chapter 2, verse 31 states, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellence, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Verse 36. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thy hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So right there, Daniel was telling him the statue that he saw, which had a head of gold, breasts and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, and legs of iron, that head of gold, which was at the tip of the kingdom, which was at the beginning of the four kingdoms, was him. And he represented Babylon, because he was the head of Babylon. So the head of gold that we see here in this vision that the Father gave Nebuchadnezzar is Babylon. Let's continue. Verse 39, it says, And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as so much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And pay attention to verse 41. It says, And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, notice it's potter's clay first, and part of iron. The king shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of the urn. For as so much as thou sawest the urn mixed with miry clay. So notice that it started as potter's clay, and then it ended up being miry clay. We're going to go a little bit deeper into that here in just a second. And as the toes of the feet were part of urn and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest urn mixed with miry clay, that go that miry clay again, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So, and then it says in verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now that's the kingdom, obviously, of the Most High Father, or Yahushua the Messiah. For so much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, we're going to get into who that stone is, and you probably know, and they break it in pieces, the urn, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Okay? And then, of course, after that, it talks about how Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel and commanded that they shall offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. And Daniel was then made a great man in the province of Babylon. So let's go into it and let's break this image and this beast down so we can get a proper understanding as we go on this mission to discover what the real mark of the beast is. So, the head of gold, according to the scriptures, is Babylon. And that refers to Daniel 2:38, where it states that thou art this head of gold. Now, the breasts and arms of silver represents the next kingdom. Now, the next kingdom that takes over Babylon, according to the scriptures and according to secular sources, is the Medes and the Persians. So how do we know this? Let's go to Daniel 5:1. Daniel 5:1 states that Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden cup and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple, out of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. Bad thing to do. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. Now, in the same hour, verse 5, came forth fingers of a man's hand and rolled over against the candlestick upon the plaister of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. So here we see that his son, Nebuchadnezzar's son, Belshazzar, was having a feast. He went and took the things, the gold and the sacred items that they had captured from Jerusalem. He brought them out and he started to drink out of these sacred cups and sacred things. And when that happened, the father, of course, seen that and became angry, and he seen the hand to come and start writing. And if we go down to verse 25, it tells us what that hand said. Verse 25, it says, and this is the writing that was written. Meaning, tekel, a person. This is the interpretation of the thing. Many, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Peres, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. So right there, according to biblical history, and we're going to see here shortly that this is not just biblical, but you can actually go into secular history and it will say the exact same thing. And that's how we know that the Bible is not just a book, but it's also a historical book based on the foundations of the world, which is all factuals. It's not a game. All right, so that second beast, which was the breast and arms of silver, as stated in Daniel 5:1, which is the next kingdom that will take over Babylon, is the Medes and the Persians. Then we have next the belly and thighs of brass. Now, according to the scripture, it's also going to tell you what the belly and thighs of brass are. And if we go to Daniel 8:3, Daniel 8:3-7, it states, Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. So they're speaking of this ram that came up, and he was pushing westward, northward, southward, and no beast could stand before this ram. And verse 5 says, And as I was considered, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram, and he had 2 horns. No, he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hands. So it's talking about a ram and a goat. At first the ram was pushing things left, right, north to south. Nothing could touch it. But then a goat rose up and ran so fast that it says that his feet didn't touch the ground, and it hit the ram and destroyed the ram. If we go down, the Bible tells us who that ram was and who that goat was. If we go down to verse 20, it says, The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Medes and Persia. So right there is letting us know that that ram which got defeated by that goat with 1 horn is the Medes and the Persians. And in verse 21, it says, And a rough goat is the king of Gracia. So it's letting you know that that goat that destroyed the ram, or the Medes and the Persian, is Grecia, or the Grecian Empire, with Alexander the Great. How many of you heard of Alexander the Great? He was the one who ruled the Grecian Empire. So, now we know the majority of the statue. We got the head of gold, which is Babylon. We got the breast and arms of silver, which is the Medes and the Persians. We got the belly and thighs of brass, which is Greece. And then we have the legs of iron, and then the feet that was part iron and part clay. Now, according to history, it's only one kingdom that took over Greece. And that is the kingdom that ruled when the Messiah walked the earth. Now, we all know our biblical history and our secular history. We know that there's only one kingdom that ruled when the Messiah walked the earth. And that kingdom is Rome. The legs of iron is Rome. Rome symbolizes them legs of iron. Now, how do we know this? Because the Bible doesn't say it. Now, we do know that Rome was the kingdom that was ruling. We do know that a lot of the New Testament was written in Greek, which is from the Greece. So, those kingdoms must have been right next to each other. But let's go a little bit deeper, and let's go to some secular sources, and just to validate all of our claims that we have mentioned here this evening. So, we're going to go to Wikipedia, and then we go to Babylon. If we go down to the Persia captures Babylon, it'll tell you right here, based on secular history, what the Bible has already just stated as in this study. And it says, in 539 BC, the Neo-Babylonian Empire fell to Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, with a military engagement known as the Battle of Opis. So right there it's stating that the Babylonians fell to the king of Persia. Same thing mentioned in the scripture is letting you know that the Father already said it would happen, so it had to happen. Also, let's continue. Let's match up that Greece took over the Medes and the Persians. Well, if we go to Wikipedia and we go to Alexander the Great, starting at the top of Alexander the Great Wikipedia, it'll tell you that Alexander the Great was a king of the Macedon, a state in the northern ancient Greece. So right there is letting you know that he was the king of Greece at that time. And you can read more about it when you get a chance. But if you go down to the second paragraph, it lets you know right here, it says Alexander broke the power of Persia in a series of decisive battles, most notably the battles of Issus and Gaugamela. He subsequently overthrew the Persian king Darius IV and conquered the entirety of the Persian Empire. At that point, his empire stretched from the Adriatic Sea to the Indus River. So right there is letting us know that he conquered the Persian Empire. Just as the Bible already stated, just as the Bible predicted, or the Father had predicted in the first place, just like he stated what would happen, because the Father cannot lie. So, now that brings us to the legs of Ur and me saying that it's Rome, which is undeniable. Well, if history proved that each of these kingdoms overthrew each kingdom, as we stated, Babylon being overthrew by the Medes and Persians being overthrew by Greece with Alexander the Great, then that means that history will also prove that Rome overthrew Greece. So if we go to Wikipedia once again, and we went to Rome, just simply Rome in Wikipedia, and we went down a little bit, scrolled down, right over here where this red map at. And if we read right here, this is what it states. It says, by then all Hellenistic kingdoms and the Greek city-states were in decline, exhausted from the endless civil wars and relying on mercenary troops. This saw the fall of Greece after the Battle of Corinth and the establishment of Roman control over Greece. Right there, according to history, and like I said, the nation that ruled once Yahushua was on the earth was indeed Rome. We all know that. And right here, based on secular information and historical facts, we see that Roman took control of Greece. So those are the four kingdoms. Let's go a little bit deeper. Now, in chapter 2, it stated that the feet was part of iron and part clay. Now, notice that it said at first that that clay was potter's clay, and then it turned into miry clay. What does potter's clay symbolizes? What is potter's clay according to the scriptures? Well, if we go to Isaiah 64 and 8, and that's why it's so important to let the Bible interpret itself. It says no scripture is of any in private interpretation. Let the scriptures interpret itself and you will get the correct information. If you go to Isaiah 64 and 8, it says, but now, O Lord, thou art our Father, we are the clay, and thou art potter, and we are all the work of thy hand. So right there, the Father is saying that the potter's clay is his true people. And it makes perfect sense, being that he's the potter and he's molding us into what he wants us to be. Also, another scripture that lets us know this as well is Jeremiah 18 and 6. And it states, O house of Israel, cannot I do with you as this potter, saith the Lord? Behold, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are ye in my hand, O house of Israel. So right there, he's letting us know that we are the potter's clay, and he is the potter that's going to mold, shape, and groom us into what he wants us to be, and not into what we want us to be. Okay? And this is all Bible. Now, notice that potter's clay, it went in being potter's clay when it mixed with the iron. But once it mixed, it turned into miry clay. And it also states that the strength in it shall be of the urn, which is of Rome. So the strength, once the Father's true people mixed in with Rome, the strength in it will be of Rome. So that lets you know that the bigger influence will be of Rome. And we all know that these four kingdoms that's mentioned here, Babylon, Medes and the Persians, Greece, and Rome, are all pagan kingdoms. They all worship pagan gods. And they all have one thing in common too. They all worship the sun god. And they own different forms. So, let's continue. What is miry clay? Well, according to dictionary.com and many other dictionaries, the word miry or miry means swampy or muddy. So that means that the clay went from potters to his people, being who he groomed, to muddy and swampy, nasty, filthy, trifling. So it wasn't his people anymore. So you have to really understand that and take that into heed. Okay? Let's continue. And then it says that a stone that was cut out without hands smote the image upon his feet. Notice that the feet is the last part of the image, which is the time that we are in now. And the stone not cut with hands, notice where it smote it at his feet. So during the times that we are in now, when iron mixed with the clay, when Rome mixed in with his true people, at its peak, a stone cut out without hands smote it at that point. Who is that stone cut out without hands? We're going to be quick and brief on this. Matthew 21 and 42 states that Jesus, Yahushua, said unto them, Did ye never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders reject, the same is become the head of the corner? This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. He is the chief cornerstone. He is the stone which the builders rejected. That is the Son, Yahushua, the Messiah. Now also, just another scripture to see where he was quoting from is back in Psalms 118 and 22. It says, the stone which the builders refused is become the head corner, the headstone of the corner. So, we know that that stone that's cut out without hands is indeed Yahushua the Messiah, the Messiah. Okay? So, that's breaking down chapter 2 of Daniel. Now we're going to get even deeper. We're going to go to Daniel 7. Now, Daniel chapter 7, it gets a little bit deeper. It goes a little bit more in depth because in this chapter, see, in Daniel chapter 2, the Father gave Nebuchadnezzar a dream, but he just really just scratched the surface of the dream and really just gave him just a little bit of information. Now, Daniel, being a servant of the Most High Father, the Father also gave Daniel a dream, but in Daniel's dream, the Father revealed a little bit more, actually a lot more, than he revealed to Nebuchadnezzar, being not his servant. So let's go into it. In Daniel chapter 7, the Father gave Daniel a dream. In that dream, he saw 4 beasts come up out the sea. Let's read Daniel 2. It says, Daniel spake and said, I saw my vision by the night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from another. The first was like a lion, and it had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given into it. And behold, another beast, a second like unto a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth of it between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, which is a bird. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that was before it, and it had 10 horns. So, you got 4 beasts that come out the sea. The first was like a lion, the second was like a bear, the third was like a leopard, and it says the 4th was dreadful, terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it also had 10 horns. Now, this dream that the Father gave Daniel was a continuance of the dream he gave Nebuchadnezzar. So in other words, he gave Nebuchadnezzar a dream in which he can understand, since Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon was used to serving idols and statues. He gave him the dream of a statue and gave him the kingdoms within that statue. Now, with Daniel, he was able to show him the depiction the way that he wanted to show it to him, which is the Father wanted to show it to him. So he gave him visions of beasts with characteristics of each beast being different to describe further those same kingdoms. So in other words, that first beast, which was like a lion, is Babylon, the same head of gold. The second beast, which was like a bear, is the Medes and the Persians. The third beast, which was like a leopard with 4 heads, which is the Greece. And if anybody know their history, if you read deeper and go, you can go to Wikipedia on Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great died, the kingdom was divided in 4. And that's the symbolization of those 4 heads. Also, the fourth beast being Rome, exceeding dreadful, strong, and just terrible in his eyes. Now, notice one thing that it said. It says in verse 3 that, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. What does that sea symbolize? That sea, according to the scripture, symbolized a multitude of people, nations, and tongues. And you say, well, how do we know that? Well, if we go to Revelation 17 and 15, and that's why I said the Bible interprets itself, it says that he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So right there we know that them beasts that came out of the sea, meaning they came out of already populated areas, already established areas. And if you see how the beasts arose, they conquered areas. Right? They conquer areas. So this is how these beasts arose. So let's continue. We go down to verse 8. It says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horn plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. When it says a mouth speaking great things, it's talking about blasphemies. It says, I behold till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So what it's stating here is that this fourth beast, upon whom this horn rose up out of, this fourth beast and this horn that rose out of this beast that was diverse from the rest of the horns will rule until the Ancients of Days did sit, which means that this horn and this fourth beast's influence will be upon the earth until Yahushua the Messiah return. So we're going to identify this horn. Now we already know that the fourth beast is Rome. The fourth beast is Rome, just like they're the feet and the legs of iron and the feet of part iron, part potter's clay, then turned into miry clay. So let's continue. If we go down to verse 17, the interpretation of what he saw is given. Okay? Now, first of all, one might say, well, how do we know a beast is a kingdom? Well, it simply states it in Daniel 7 and 17. It says, these great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. So these 4 beasts is kingdom. Like I said, it's the same exact thing as the statue, the same exact kingdoms from each other. But the Father's intention and purpose of giving it to Daniel was to give us more information on mainly the fourth beast, which will be the one that was strong, and it scared Daniel to the point to where at the end of this chapter it says that Daniel's countenance fell, meaning, in Hebrew it says he turned pale. So let's continue. It says, verse 18 says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. Verse 19, it says, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, that go that word iron again, and its nails of brass, which devour, break into pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were on his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, or blasphemies, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So out of Rome, a power rose up, because a horn, if you don't know, symbolizes a king or a kingdom, according to Daniel 7:24, where it says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. So in other words, a horn symbolizes a power or king that will arise out of this kingdom. What power arose out of the kingdom of Rome? It's only one. We're going to get there. So, verse 21 says, I behold, and the same horn. Now they're talking about this horn, which was this king that rose out of this fourth beast, or that rose out of Rome, that will rule until Yahushua return. Now this horn, it says, I behold, in verse 21, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. There we go. That fourth beast is the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which is Rome, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it into pieces. Then it says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. So that's that horn, or that king that rose out of them other 10 that was diverse from all of those, and he subdued 3. So this horn that we speak of right here is only one power that rose out of the Rome, even till today. That's the king of Rome. Not only is he the king of Rome, but he's also the bishop of Rome. It's the Pope, the papacy. The Pope is the only power that rose out of Rome, and it was diverse from the others because it was not only a Templar or a government power, but it was also a spiritual power. And that's what made it diverse from the other ones, because it controlled your spiritual thoughts and actions, as well as your governmental thoughts and actions. Notice what it says about this horn in verse 25. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, 1 year, and times 2 years, and a dividing of a time. So that's 3.5 years, or in other words, 42 months, that he will be given time. And in prophecy, he said that I give you a year, a day for a year. So, you know, that goes into something else, but it's deep. So, this horn, which is the papacy, it states that he will think to change times and laws. So let's just revert over a little bit to our secular history and see if this prophecy has been fulfilled. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the Vatican City website. The Vatican website. And we're going to see what their website says. If we go to their website, where I'm at now, and we go down here to 10 Commandments. Here we go, right. Let's see here. Here we go, 10 Commandments. Now, if we go through the 10 Commandments, you'll see right here that the first commandment is you shall have no other gods before me. And it says that the second commandment is, it says, don't take the Lord thy God in vain. Well, actually, in the commandments that was given to Moses in Exodus chapter 8,
The second commandment was do not worship graven image or bow down before them. But what they did was they took that second commandment and added it to the first commandment and hid it in the first commandment. And then they took the third commandment and made it the second commandment. So right there, they're changing laws of the Most High. Now, where did they change times at in the Most High? Well, if we go to their third commandment, it states right here that the third commandment is the Sabbath day. Well, hold on now. In the scriptures in Exodus 8, it states that the fourth commandment is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. But here, theirs is the third one. Now, they also change the observance of the Sabbath, which is the seventh day of the week, until Sunday, the first day of the week. And if you click right here under their third commandment, the Sabbath day, if you click on Lord's Day, they plainly state to you right here that we all gather on the day of the sun, for it is the first day. What is the day of the sun? The venerable day of the sun. The word venerable means to reverence or worship. So when they refer to the term the venerable day of the sun or the day of the sun, it's the day the sun is worshipped. Yes, sun worship has been an irritant to the Father for centuries, if not millenniums. Let's continue. So right here we see where they have changed the times and laws of the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. And if we go down to the commandments 9 and 10, you say, well, if they took one out, which is not to have graven images, and then how did they still get 10? Well, what they did was the 9th and 10th one are the exact same thing. Their 9th commandment states right here, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his maidservant or his manservant or his ox or his ass or anything that is your neighbor's. That's their 9th commandment. And if you go to the 10th commandment, it says you shall not covet anything that's your neighbor's. The exact same thing. So right there, you see that they've changed times, which is changing the Sabbath day, the 7-day Sabbath, which is the seal of God, to Sunday, which is the beast, and the day that the beast changed it in reverence because they were pagans and they were used to worshiping the sun. And they didn't want to change their ways. And that's the prophecy of Daniel, where it said the urn will mix with potter's clay and become miry clay. Because the urn was Rome, the papacy, or the Holy Roman Empire at that time, because the papacy rose up, which was their horn. Is everything making sense? I hope it is. Continue to follow me. We're just about done. We got one more thing we have to go to. So let's go back to Daniel 7. And as you see right here, it pretty much ends. It's 3 more verses, but that's the main part I wanted to say. And in verse 28 it says, hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. He said my countenance changed. And like I said, in the Hebrew it says that he went pale. That's how fearsome that beast was when he seen this, and he seen what the Roman Empire would do. Now the Holy Roman Empire would do. It made him pale. It changed his countenance. He was that afraid. Okay? Now, let's continue. Now we're going to match all of this up. Now there's a few things I want you to notice about this fourth beast. Because as we go into Revelation 13 and we finish this study, as we come into the real mark of the beast, and some things you have to be able to know or be able to see. So this fourth beast that we saw, one of the characteristics it had was iron teeth. Another characteristic it had was that it had 10 horns. It also had a mouth speaking great things. It made war against the saints, and it ruled for 3.5 years or 42 months. Which is prophecy terms as well. I don't want you to think it's a literal 3.5 years. It's prophecy terms. Okay? Now let's go to Revelation 13 and see what it says here. Now, in Revelation 13, this is John having a vision. Now, John having a vision of a beast that come out of the sea. Remember, the sea represents a multitude of people, nations, languages, and tongues, which is an already populated area. John is given a vision now of what Daniel was already given a vision of, but now John was given a little bit more of the vision, or a little bit more of the beast. Notice that Nebuchadnezzar was given the dream first. He was only given a little bit just to know the beast. And then Daniel was given a vision, and he was given more. Now John is getting a vision. Now John is given even more about the beast. So let's continue. Revelation 13, it says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." So right there go a characteristic of this beast that was of the 4th beast, which was the 10 horns. I want to let you know right off the bat that this beast that he saw come out the sea is the same exact beast, the 4th beast of Daniel. It's the same exact beast. The reason why it has 7 heads, if you go to the scripture, it'll let you know that those 7 heads symbolize 7 mountains. And that's actually in Revelation 17 and 19. If you go to Revelation 17 and 19, actually, I'm sorry, not 17 and 19, 17 and 9, it says that, "And here's the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth." Now, the word mountain, according to the 19, I believe is the 1826, or even if you search it up now, it was a Webster dictionary, where the word mountain basically just means large hill. So it's letting you know the 7 heads are 7 mountains. It's only one place that's called the city of 7 hills, and that is Rome, the Vatican, the city of 7 hills. It's always been known as the city of 7 hills all across the globe. And it's letting you know the 7 heads are 7 mountains. So let's continue to identify this beast, which we already know is Rome. If we go back to Revelation 13, it's going to start giving you qualities of this beast. Now, the qualities that it gives you of this beast is going to be characteristics of each beast before. So you're going to have characteristics of Babylon, characteristics of the Medes and Persians, characteristics of Greece, and then you have Rome. The reason it's like that because every time a kingdom conquered a kingdom, it took from that kingdom. So for instance, when the Medes and Persians took over Babylon, it took some of Babylon customs with it. And when Greece took over the Medes and the Persians, it took some of Babylon and the Medes and the Persian customs. So now when Rome took over Greece, it took some of Babylon, Medes and the Persians, and Greece with it. So that's why in verse 2 of Revelation 13, it states that, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard." Okay? That leopard right there was how one of the beasts looked. It was how the 3rd beast looked. And I also say his feet were as the feet of a bear. That bear was how the 2nd beast looked. And it said, "And his mouth as the mouth of a lion." That lion is how the 1st beast looked. And it said, "And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." I've walked up to people and asked them, "What's the mark of the beast?" And I say, "Well, who is the beast?" And they'll say, "Oh, the beast is the devil." No, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible simply says the beasts which are 4 kingdoms. A beast represents a kingdom. The dragon represents the devil. So the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Okay? So, who is the dragon according to the scriptures? See, I like to let the Bible interpret itself. If we go to Revelation 12 and 7, this is what it says. 12 and 7 through 8, or 7 through 9, it says, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him." So there you have it, that dragon that we're talking about right here in verse 2 is indeed Satan. And it says the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. It says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Well, right there is a very significant thing in history. Because if you know that in 1798, according to secular sources, the Pope was taken off of his throne. And his temporal power, which is his government power, or his power over the nations, was taken away from him. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, and you go to, I believe, Pope Pius VI, it'll tell you a little bit about that. And Pope Pius VI, right here, it states that General Berthier marched to Rome, entered it unopposed on the 10th of February 1798, and proclaiming a Roman Republic, demanded of the Pope the renunciation of his temporal authority. States that upon his refusal, he was taken prisoner, and on the 20th of February was escorted from the Vatican to Siena, and thence to the Certosa near Florence. Says the French declaration of war against Tuscany led to his removal, and he later died in exile. Basically, he later died in exile. So right there, according to secular resources, it's telling us that the Pope was taken off his throne by General Berthier, who was under Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte. He was a general for Napoleon Bonaparte. He went into Rome February 10th, 1798, and demanded that the Pope renunciate his temporal authority, which is his government authority, his authority over the governments of all nations. I want y'all to know that. You look it up, you'll see all nations kissing the Pope ring even till today. Now, what happened from 1798 until 1923? Well, in 1923, and we can go to another source. We can go right not only to Wikipedia. I'm gonna go to a couple sources on this just to let you know. But in 1929, if you go to Vatican City on Wikipedia, and we're going here now, we go down a little bit. It'll tell us right here that let's see here. Right here it says, when the Lateran Treaty of 1929 that gave the state its form was being prepared, the boundaries of the proposed territories were influenced by the fact that much of it was all enclosed by the loop. So in 1929 is when the Vatican City became a full-fledged state again. And that's when it regained its temporal power. Right here it says Vatican City of Wikipedia says Vatican City was established as an independent state in 1929 by the Lateran Treaty signed by Cardinal Secretary of State Pietro Gasparri on behalf of Pope Pius, and by Prime Minister Benito Mussolini on behalf of King Victor Emmanuel IV of Italy. So in 1929, his temporal powers was restored. And if you look over here, you see a red box with two keys in it and a hat. The hat symbolizes the Pope. The two keys, one symbolizes temporal power, one symbolizes spiritual power, because the Pope claims both. And you will say, well, what do all of this have to do with everything you're about to see? In Revelation that we were just reading, it says that his deadly wound was healed, and it's talking about the papacy. Like I said, in 1798 he was taken off his throne, as we just seen. In 1929 it became a state again, and now I'm going to take you to another resource where it's going to actually show them signing the treaty and becoming a state right here. And I'm actually going to even show you the actual article where it says the deadly wound was healed, or the wound was healed. So, we have to stay focused. Right here, you see it says Italy and the Roman Catholic Church have healed wounds. And if you go down a little bit, you see right here, you see them at the table. Right here, February 12th, 1929, from the New York Times. They're at the table and they're about to sign the treaties. You go down a little bit more. You see right here Mussolini signing his treaty. And then you see over here Cardinal Gaspari signing his part of the treaty. You go down a little bit. They're together. There, right there goes the signatures. And right there you see the Pope. He's restored to his throne. And there's a picture of him with his hat on. And right over here in the corner right here, there's an article. And I'm going to click on it, and it's going to say, heal wound of many years. Vatican again at peace with Italy after a long quarrel, and it's telling you the article right here about it. So right there, the deadly wound was healed. According to history, I'm not showing you anything that's not factual proof. That's my point of the videos that I'm making now. I want to make sure that I give factual, 100% undeniable proof to everything. So, let us continue with Revelation. Now that we have that clarified, because some people think it's going to be a man, he's going to physically get shot or stabbed and healed. Like, no, this stuff is symbolic. The whole chapter of Revelation is symbolic. And Daniel, and these things, when he's giving these visions, this stuff is symbolic. An actual beast is not going to come out to sea with horns on his head and crowns on his head looking all monstery like. That's not the case here. That's not what the Bible says is going to happen. So, if that's not literal, then how can a mark in your hand or forehead be literal like a chip or barcode or something crazy like that? So let's continue Revelation 13, verse 4. It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which is Satan, which gave power unto the beast, which gave power unto Rome. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? If you notice in this verse, after it says that they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, you have quotation marks. But basically what that means is that the next verse is going to further explain that verse. And it says, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. So the way they worship Satan was not directly, but was indirectly. You don't worship Satan directly, you worship him indirectly, which was by worshiping the beast. Now that word worship means to reverent, honor, and homage paid to God or sacred personage, or to any object regarded as Satan. So to reverence, honor, or to pay homage to. That's what worship means. A lot of people think it's just getting on your knees and doing that. No. If you're obeying the beast and what it tells you to do, and it's telling you to do something that's different than what the Father tells you to do, then you are worshiping the beast. Just want to throw that out there. Let's continue. It says, verse 5, it says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Remember that mouth that was speaking great things was the same thing said about the fourth beast in the horn, that it will have a mouth speaking great things. It says, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Ain't that what it said about the fourth beast? Which was 3.5 years, which was 42 months. So same thing is happening here. And I'm just saying this to make a point that that fourth beast and this beast is the same exact beast. It's nothing different. This is Rome. John the Revelator is just giving more insight on it. So let's continue. It says in verse 7 that, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindred and tongues and nations. There again, it was given to him to make war against the saints. The same thing that was mentioned of the fourth beast and Daniel, saying that he made war against the saints. Verse 8, it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name are not written in the book of life of Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And then it talks about another beast, which is a kingdom. It says, and I beheld another beast coming up out the earth. Notice that this beast comes out of the earth and not the sea, or not a multitude of people, not a highly populated area. Okay? Notice what this beast does. It says, and I behold another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Guess who was the cover of the story of the deadly wound being healed, of the Vatican going back into power? New York Times. The United States was right there. They helped them come back into power, because the United States is a nation built off of a lot of Roman principles. A lot of people don't know that. The Vatican has an eagle. The United States have an eagle. How did the United States come into being the United States? This was not an occupied land. Yeah, we had, they had different kinds of Indians and stuff, but them Indians was in different sections of this land. It wasn't no government as a whole that ran this whole land. So that's why it says this beast came out of the land and not out of the waters, because they didn't come and conquer nobody for real. They came over here. Yeah, they killed the Indians and they for real just took the land, but there wasn't no full structured government that they had to conquer to occupy this land. And this is the beast, America, that came out of the land because of the way it came into existence, based on our history. And everybody in America should know that. Just off school, they did tell us something that was true. So let's continue. Verse 13, it says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he make fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. A lot of people think that he's going to make asteroids come down from earth. This second beast, what do America hold? What do America as a country hold that the Vatican don't? A military power. When he said that he had the power to make fire come from heaven, he's talking about missiles. That's why it says, who can make war against the beast? They're talking about missiles and fire like that. So then if we continue to 14, it says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now the image of the beast. The image of the beast is simply one thing. It's the church and state system. The image of Rome. Rome is the only place on earth that not only is the Pope the Bishop of Rome, but he's also the King of Rome. Rome is considered a monarchy as well. And a monarchy, we know, as a government, holds kings and queens. Let's just check on a little bit of secular sources here. If you go to Wikipedia once again, and you went to the Vatican City under Wikipedia, as we're doing now, you go down a little bit, it tells you that the Vatican City is an ecclesiastical state, or a sacerdotal / monarchical state ruled by the Bishop of Rome, the Pope. That first word right there, SACERDOTAL, if we click on that, as I'm doing now, what that means is it's the ministerial orders of the Roman Church, or those of bishops. So it's letting you know that it's the head of the Roman Church. It's the bishop of the Roman Church. So that's part of the government. And if you click on monarchical, we already know what that is. That's a form of government which hold kings and queens. And if you look on the side, you see the crown of a king. So that church and state system will be applied to America and will be applied across the world. And that's what the Pope two keys symbolize: temporal power and also spiritual power. So that's what that is right there. The church and state system, they're going to make it to where, okay, in order to have the mark, you also got to have the image of the beast. So to where they make everybody worship the way they want to worship by creating a church and state system, which means that the church will be in charge of your spirituality and how you worship, and also be in charge of the government and laws that's put into effect. That's why deep in Revelation it talks about the people who had victory over the image of the beast. So let's continue. Now that we know that the Pope is not only the Bishop of Rome, but he's also the King of Rome. The church and state image, the church and state image, which is the image of the beast. Let's continue. It says in verse 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Remember that word worship means to reverent, honor, and show homage to. So those who will not honor the church and state system, which is the image of the beast, and make people do what the mark of the beast is, which I'm about to explain to you, which is very simple. Those who do not honor that system will be killed. If you're not going to, and this is already something that happened before, if you know your history, back in the 300th century, back when Constantine made everybody worship on Sunday in regards to the sun god, a lot of people were killed over the next 3 to 4 centuries because they would not change their day of worship, because they would rather follow the Father rather than man. So this is something that's already happened before. It's just going to happen again. There's nothing new under the sun, just like Ecclesiastes 1:9 says. So, we go back to verse 15. It says that he causes that as many as would not worship the image of the beast, or honor and pay homage to, or admire the image of the beast, will be killed. So obey the image of the beast, should I say. Be killed. You don't want to obey the system we set up, and the way we tell you to worship will kill you. Okay? And then verse 16, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, that no man might buy, sell, or trade, save he that have the mark, that's one thing, or the name of the beast, that's two things, or the number of his name, that's three things. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or 666. So let's go into a little bit more secular information. Have you ever heard of the term vicarious fei dei? Vicarious fei dei is a term that the Vatican, that the bishop or the Pope of Rome goes by. Every pope, a lot of people say that it's engraved up under their hat, but every pope goes by the term vicarious fei dei, and I'm going to put it up on the screen as well. Vicarious fei dei. Now, notice that back in those days when John was roaming the earth, he was under Roman authority. So when he said, and they use Roman numerals. So when he said that it would be 666, a lot of people trying to find 666 in American numbers when American numbers didn't even exist in those times. You have to go to the things that they were using in those times, which was Roman numerals, Roman numerics, and also Latin numerals. So the word vicarious fei dei means vicar of Christ, or Christ on earth. If you do your research, if you look it up, it's not hid at all. Vicarious fei dei in Roman numerals equals up to 666. And as you see on the screen, there it goes. Vicarious fei dei. Okay? And then you also have the word Latinios, which is Greek for Latin speaking man, which is another title of the Pope. If you add that up, it also equals up to 666. So the number in his name. But that's just one thing. That's not the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? Now that we know that Rome is the beast, what do they say is their mark? Let's go. Let's ask them. The best way to know the beast's mark is to ask them, right? Hey, Rome, what is y'all mark? Well, this is what they have to say about that question. Let's see here. Right here. It says, here's a question. This is out of the Dore Catechism of 1833. It says, how do you prove that the church had power to command feasts and holidays? Here's the answer. It says, by the very act of changing the Sabbath into Sunday, which Protestants allow of, and therefore they fondly contradict themselves by keeping Sunday strictly and breaking most of the feast commands by the same church. Okay, that's one thing. This right here is out of the American Catholic Quarterly Review of January 1883, and I'm putting the articles up on the screen. They say Sunday is purely a creation of the Catholic Church. It's purely a creation of the Catholic Church. What's another thing? This is out of the papal controversy involving the claim of the Roman Catholic Church to be the Church of God, page 179. It says, from this same Catholic Church, you have accepted your Sunday, and that Sunday as the Lord's Day, she has handed down as a tradition, and the entire Protestant world has accepted it as tradition. For you have not an iota of Scripture to establish it. Therefore, that which you have accepted as your rule of faith, and adequate as it of course is, as well as your Sunday, you have accepted on the authority of the Roman Catholic Church. Whoo, that's a powerful statement. This right here is out of the Ecclesiastical Review, volume 50, page 236. It says, Protestants make much of the observance of Sunday and are sometimes sincerely and honestly shocked that we Catholics seem to make little of that same observance. It does not occur to our separate brethren that by their principle of faith, there is no Sunday observance of obligation at all. Christ abrogated the Mosaic law. Remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day. And so far as the New Testament tells us, substituted no Lord's Day for the Sabbath, no Sunday observance for Saturday observance, yet they deem it their duty to keep Sunday holy. Why? Because the Catholic Church tells them to do so. It's their mark. And this is one of my favorite ones right here, because this right here is one of the boldest statements that they could have made, that one of the popes made, I believe, right here. And this is what it says. Give me once. This is what it says. This comes out of the H.F. Thomas, Counselor of Cardinal Gibbon. So he was a cardinal of November 11th, 1895. It says, of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change Saturday or the Sabbath to Sunday was her act. And the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical authority in religious things. And here's a picture of him right here. You see right there on his chest, he got Sunday, my mark of authority and power. It's not about a chip. It's about worship. The Father has always been a father of worship. He demands to be worshipped the way he wants to be worshipped and not the way we want to worship him. In fact, he will not accept worship the way we want to worship him and not the way he wants us to worship him. And that's stated numerous of times throughout the scripture, from the beginning all the way up until the end. Worship the Father the way he wants to worship. In fact, Yahushua said we must worship him in spirit and in truth. He seeketh such to worship him in truth, meaning we obey his commandments, because he said thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness and thy law is the truth. This right here is one of my favorite ones. This is out of St. Catherine Church Synodal, Algonac, Michigan. This is of May 21st, 1995. It says, perhaps the boldest thing, the most revolutionary change the church ever did happened in the first century. The holy day, the Sabbath, was changed from Saturday to Sunday. The day of the Lord was chosen not from any direction noted in the scriptures, but from the Catholic Church sense of its own power. People who think that the scriptures should be their sole authority should logically become Seventh-day Adventists and keep Saturday holy. These people are crazy. Sunday worship is the mark of the beast, or the mark of Rome, or the Holy Roman Empire, or the Catholic Church, who is the fourth beast. And then it says you receive this mark in your hand or in your forehead. Well, according to scriptures, if we go to scriptures, we can see what your hand and your forehead symbolize. Your hand symbolizes your action, and your forehead symbolizes your thought. If you go to the scriptures, and you go to, let's see here, you go to Deuteronomy 6 and 8, and this is what it says, and he's talking about them who keep his commandments. If you go to 6 and 6, it says, and these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. Your forehead is where your frontal lobe is at. That's where character formation occurs. Your right hand is your action, your authority. Notice when blessings take place, a lot of times they do it with the right hand. Back when Jacob was blessing Ephraim and Manasseh, he turned his hands around, and Joseph got upset because he put his right hand on the younger child and not the older child, because the right hand symbolizes your action and it symbolizes authority. So, the church wants to control your thoughts and your mentality on salvation, and by honoring their system, which is their church and state system that's coming, that's going to be a part of this one world government and this one world religion that the Pope will be behind of, the son of perdition, the son called the Antichrist. And it's not the actual Pope that's the Antichrist, it's the position that's the son of perdition, or the Antichrist. Also, they want to control your actions by making you go and worship on this day. Making you worship on a day that Satan has chosen to be his day. The Sabbath is chosen to be the Father's day, all the way back to Genesis 2. And Satan, the first day of the week, was chosen to be Satan's day, all the way back with Nimrod in Babylon. That's something that happened centuries ago, millenniums ago. They've been worshiping the Son, and it's been an irritant to the Father for millenniums. He don't want nothing to do with sun worship whatsoever. How hard is it to go back to worshiping on the Sabbath? If you worship on the Sabbath, you will receive the seal of God, because the Sabbath day is the seal of God. It is the seal of God, the Sabbath day. One more scripture to let you know about the frontlets and about it being your hand and your actions. If you want the Exodus 13 and 16, it's saying, it shall be for a token upon thy hand, and for frontlets between thy eyes. For by the strength of the hand of the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt. So it's saying right here, for by the strength of the hand, his action of the Lord, or of Yahweh, brought us forth out of Egypt. It's not a physical mark. If that's the case, then everything in a book will be physical, as well as the beast coming out of the sea. And we know that's based on the scriptures and everything. That's not true. So we have to get it right. I don't want anyone to perish. And a lot of people don't know. Stop Sunday worship. If you obey him and keep his commandments, you will not receive the mark of the beast. There is no secret rapture. That's not true. There is a lot of them things that they've been feeding us is not true. We have to stay focused and obey the Father. Obey the Father. Okay? Pray, pray, pray. Ask the Father to open your mind, because it wasn't until I start obeying Him and keeping His Sabbath day that He enlightened my mind. I've been going to church my whole life on Sunday, and I did not know these things. I would hear sermons and I would forget them. 15, 20 minutes later, I couldn't tell you what the pastor talked about, because that stuff have a stronghold on you. Test the spirits whether they are from God. Test your pastors. Ask him questions. Watch him stutter. If he's truthful, he'll be able to give you the truth easily and happily. Okay? So stay firm, stay focused. This is a study. I will be putting out more studies, such as the rapture, all types of different stuff. So subscribe to the channel, because this is the first of many things to come, and we're going to make sure we get y'all the truth out there. From Kodesh Ministries, Judah
And he
Dubois.
used the words New Age to describe what was coming.
It would be a glorious new age, yeah. And this is exactly what the movement is all about today. And he went on and said, as I said a little earlier, that as life on this planet becomes more and more difficult, and calamities will strike the planet more and more frequently, the spirits at that time are going to put all their effort to impress religious leaders, to bring before the masses of the earth the sacredness of Sunday. See? He will teach Sunday sacredness. And with the religious leaders, looking forward to 1,000 years of perfect peace on earth, they will put all their effort into it. Then laws will be passed by governments. One person asked, what's going to happen about people that don't believe in the Spirit's recommendation? The priest says, that's no problem at all. Laws will be passed by governments that will force people to go along with it, regardless of whether they believe in it or not. And he says the law enforcement officers will explain to people, make it clear that such a law is necessary to assure the well-being of all people. He says the laws will be passed with no effort at all. And then he went on and he said about the fact that the venerability of the sun, which in ages past was such an irritant to the Creator. All these great nations and other nations, the smaller ones, were all involved in sun worship. And in those centuries, the Creator found that teaching of worship of the sun to be a terrible irritant. And he said, it is going again to take place, but not in worshiping the sun, in remembering Sunday to keep it holy. He made a statement I will never forget. He says, by the observance of the day upon which the master, Satan, has placed the unction of his authority and power, see, he receives homage, regardless of whom people claim to worship. Isn't that something? So, can you understand now why I had 28 Bible studies in 1 week and started to go to church on Sabbath? And I never missed since until I became sick.
The issue of a day of worship came up in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Was Sunday the only day mentioned?
Well, you see, the priest mentioned, yes, about the fact Satan has chosen Sunday as his day. The Creator has chosen the seventh day of the week. Lucifer has chosen to call his day the first day of the week, Sunday. See? And regardless of what people claim to worship, they're worshiping God, the Creator, by observing that day, that particular day, they are bringing homage and respect.
Now, at that time in your life, you were 20 years old or so.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever heard of a Seventh-day Adventist?
Never in my life.
In that
They
meeting,
didn't talk about Seventh-day Adventists. They talked strictly about Adventists.
well, they just talked, but they did. The word Adventist
Yeah.
was mentioned.
The priest was telling us that necromancy, as I mentioned earlier, is the belief that the dead have entered into a higher state of existence, etc. And he says, for centuries, friendly demon spirits have worked diligently to establish and uphold in the religious convictions of all people the belief that man has an immortal soul. See? Then he boasted about the fact that the master was so smart, in that he had deceived the whole world, even in this age of great scientific knowledge and understanding. Then one person put his hand up, and that priest says, yeah, yes, you want to say something? He says, what about the Adventists? You can't count them deceived regarding the state of the dead. And I got a question. What about, how come that they can't be brought under the great deception? The priest said, you're right. I apologize, says here, I made a mistake. When I said that all the millions of people living on the face of this planet, everybody, you know, was honoring the great master. I forgot the Adventists. There's so few in number, when you figure the billions and all people, I didn't even think of mentioning them. So I'm sorry. Then he says, secondly, the reason why they can't be brought under the great deception, let me explain about it. Now he said, my next statement is going to upset some of you. But what I'm telling you is the honest truth. It is factual. It's reality. The fact that the Adventists observed the biblical Sabbath of creation and reverence the Creator on that day, it makes it impossible for the spirits to deceive them. They are giving very special help and great spiritual insight. And he said, under these conditions, they are not ordinary people. And that stayed with me, just like this. And when